Hello, everyone, and we're live, episode 42 of the Fitness Business Growth Podcast. I'm here with Chris Lawrence. How are you, Chris?
I'm going really well, thanks, Jamie. Great to be here.
Mate, thanks for coming on. So, Chris is a West Tigers legend, a former Australian Kangaroo, and the proud owner of One Training Organisation. Cue the intro. So, Chris, welcome back, mate. How are you today?
Going really well, thanks. Been a good start of the week. Weather's good, so I can't complain.
We're about to you, mate. Are you in Sydney?
In Sydney, yeah, basically our office here in Five Dock, so yeah, beautiful sunny day at the moment.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, first things first, man, I've got to say, my best friend, Jared Brown, I'm getting married in 10 days. He is on the
Oh,
left of me. He is a massive West Tigers fan. And so is my dad. And my dad's like, why are you interviewing Chris Lawrence? What do you do for work? And I will say, mate, I've watched the 2005 grand final maybe 50 times. That Benji Marshall flick pass down the side to Pat Richards. Literally, there's a big picture of that in my in my
yeah.
living room from my family. So, mate, tell us about yourself. Obviously, your early days of NRL, how did you go from playing in high school, playing at a local level, to graduating through the ranks?
Yeah, I suppose my football journey it was a bit unique in some ways, I suppose. I was very fortunate enough to and make my NRL debut while still in high school. It all sort of happened, very, very quickly. Tim Sheens, the coach at the time, was obviously known for giving young players a go and blooding them quite early. And he had a system where he had young players come in and be essentially 18th and 19th man to a lot of the away games to give them a bit
All
of
right.
experience how to prepare and things like that. So what he did was he essentially got myself and one of the other players as the 18th and 19th person. And then 2 days before the game up in Brisbane, I think Paul Federer went down with an injury, and he just turned to me and said, "Looks like you're playing now." So obviously it was out of nowhere, and to be honest, in hindsight, it was probably good. I didn't have a lot of time to think of it. I
Yeah.
was still 17, didn't have a contract. I wasn't old enough to sign a contract. Had to rush my dad to go and sign on my behalf. Quickly
Man,
get it
can I jump
processed.
in there? Were you the youngest player to debut in the NRL at the time, or what was that like?
I think there's a few that are 16. I think now they've changed the age. I think they might have changed it back. They initially changed 18. But yeah, it was, I think youngest West Tigers player, but I think there was still quite and a few younger other NRL players. So it was just, yeah, a
Man,
bit of a whirlwind. Got
in what year was that, Chris?
2006.
Mate, I
Yeah.
think I think people, human beings in general, are terrible at conceptualizing time. Mate, when I was 17, I was playing under 18s AFL for the Terrigal Panthers in third grade. So, I mean, I don't think people realize just how impressive that is. So, like, you're 17 years old, you would have thought you were mature, you would have thought you were the king of the world. Looking back on it, were you ready for that moment, or how did you prepare for that moment? It's amazing.
Yeah, look, I think, as I said, I think because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it. I just had to get thrown in the deep end. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't really think it was such a big jump. I now obviously reflect back and now look at, say, 17-year-olds sort of now coming in the system. And I probably think, what were my teammates thinking? Sheensy was probably off his head giving this young, skinny kid a go. But for me, I didn't really think any different. I was played in the under 18s at the start of that year, fast track into reserve grade. So I was playing, in the second grade competition. I didn't feel out of place.
Mm.
So, I knew it was a step up and obviously playing against my idols, but I didn't really realise, I suppose, how much of a step up was. But, the first game you're running on adrenaline and, I just remember running out to 40,000 people in front of Suncorp Stadium and, Tim Sheens, first thing, the thing he said to me before we ran out was, it was said to myself that he said, "Oh, you picked me for a reason. So when you get your chance, just back yourself." And I just had that running through my head when I ran out. And fortunately, it's sort of 20 minutes in the game, got an opportunity, loose ball, and got sort of passed with some open space, and had the chance to play it safe and step back in or pin my ears back and go down the sideline. I just had that running through my ears. Sheensy said, "Just back yourself." So backed myself, got down the sideline, and got trying debut, which is pretty cool.
Mate, so you scored a try in the NRL on debut, 17 years old, 40,000 people at Suncorp Stadium. What was that moment like, mate, when you crossed the line and put the ball down?
Yeah, it was probably famous for pretty much getting up and not reacting and not even smiling. Right? But to be honest, in my head, I thought if I score and carry on and we get beat by 30 points, yeah, I'm gonna look like pretty stupid.
So,
So
mate, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what type of 17-year-old has that level of maturity and that thought running through their head, like, hey, there's a chance here. I can look like a
yeah.
huge dickhead. So, like, that's just, it's truly remarkable, man. It really is.
I just think too, because yeah, look, I suppose in my the last couple of years at school and playing footy, I started more and more to see myself as a leader in a lot of those teams and lead by example. And I suppose that sort of rubbed off when I got in there to think, well, I've just scored, how good. But the game was still, the game was still on the line. It was only early in the game. If it was last try at the end of the game is in the bag, it probably would have carried on a bit differently. But for me, I was sort of, in my head, I'm like, inside, I was just jumping up and down and fist pumping. But in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, this is your chance, like, the start of the game, like, get through and play, finish a good game and you can celebrate.
Now, you may not have been the youngest to debut, but were you the youngest to score a try in the NRL? It'll be close.
Good question. No, I don't know. I think there's has been a couple of 16-year-olds play, so guessing they might have got a try. Maybe
Yeah.
close. Yeah, that's a good stat. I'll probably have to find out, I suppose.
So, mate, what was that like when you finished the game? I'm guessing your family was in some co-op to witness it. You finished the game. Is it, okay, I've made it? Is it, I've got so much hard work ahead of me? What was your thought once you finished that first game? 17 years old, scored a try on debut.
So yeah, family was there, which is obviously awesome having and your family there, and probably this probably moment, not so much this hour after game, but this whole probably after this first game period, I suppose set me up for the rest of my career in terms of my mindset, and my parents I owe a lot to in terms of how they allowed me, gave me the opportunity to get in that position, but. Very quickly, they sort of reminded me, congratulated me, reminded me at the time I was still in school and still completing my HSC to make sure, hey, you still got to complete your HSC. I actually had a trial HSC exam the next day and said, look, that's awesome, but like you've worked hard, let's not throw that out the window. So that sort of, kept me grounded, which I'm really grateful of. And,
Yeah.
for me, then I had to sort of fly back. It was a bit of a funny story, like flying back, sitting next to Chris Harrington, who's now become a really good mate of mine. And I sat down and still a young kid, pretty shy, and wasn't sure what to do. So I just actually got out my study books to start studying because I had like an exam next day, and I was pretty
Man.
proud at school. And Heino just sort of looked at me and said, "Mate, what the fuck are you doing? Put that away. Like, he goes, just enjoy it, mate. Just enjoy your win. Like, you don't, And I mean, the Broncos were obviously, I think they were sitting top of the table at the time. They ended up going
Yeah. They
top.
went to Melbourne that year, grand final, yeah?
Okay, so they
Yeah.
end up.
All right.
I don't think they lost the game after that. They end up winning all the games. But look, that definitely set me up to obviously go on and to be able to have that mindset that it's not everything. Keep your feet on the ground, stay humble because like I've seen across my career, there's been plenty of players who have had one good game, one good year, and haven't kept grounded. And
Mm.
if you don't stay focused, you quickly shoot
Yeah.
up and spin out.
Yeah, you didn't get that far to go that far. It's a great saying, like you made it there. Now it's making the most of it, staying on course, and ultimately having a very, very long and successful career. Mate, I've got to ask. Monday, you're at high school. It's lunchtime. You're at the canteen. You get your pies and red frogs. What type of reception are you getting in the canteen after scoring a try on debut?
Well, it was an exam, so we didn't actually have school. It was a 9 a.m. exam. We had camera crews and all the news outlets waiting at the front of school. So again, that was probably the thing. I've gone from again being a nobody to I think that morning was on the back page of every paper. The Tigers, obviously the premiers the year before, and were in danger of missing the eight. So it was a big, I suppose, storyline for them. So I didn't really know how to handle it. Again, driving in and having these camera crews and then coming in. Obviously, it was pretty exciting because you play footy with your mates at high school, and just to be able to celebrate that feeling with them. They couldn't obviously come up to the game, but getting back to school was pretty cool to see them, and then having to settle down to do my exam. But it was then when I got to finish the exam, and again another really really fast and hard lesson, I suppose, but as you do when you're a 17-year-old kid at a boys' school, finished exam, we just hung out down the local muckers. We weren't hanging out at cafes or anything like that. And just sitting there and mucking around and having a bit of fun. And again, some camera crews followed us down and started filming us, and saying, "Hey, it would be good if your mates and that you pretend to wrestle each other." And we weren't doing anything wrong, but after they sort of started again doing and asking us to do a few things and take a few photos, I started thinking, "Oh, this is probably not the setting." They're sort of asking us to do things, and I said, "Oh, look, that's enough." And
Mate, they're setting you up for a 17-year-old kid, setting the kid up. Unbelievable.
and then the back page of the paper the next day was me wrestling my mates in front of Macca's sign. So what so
Yeah.
I
Young,
was pulled into
yeah.
Tigers, and not told off, but just reminded that, hey, you're in the public eye now. Like, you just have to be careful. So within the space of 3 days, I learnt pretty quickly like lessons about, I suppose now what I could and couldn't do. And again, nothing that was just harmless. To just sending boys, just joking around, throwing some stuff at each other, having a bit of a wrestle. But
Yeah.
yet, now that was unacceptable. So
So
very
at that age, being that young, did you understand the club had $1 million sponsors and you're effectively representing the club, representing the sponsors, and what you did off the field could have cost your team, cost the club, cost the sponsors, and ultimately your career?
Oh yeah, like, to be honest, I didn't even probably know to the extent. It was more the perception, and I then when I sat down and thought about it, about the perception that number one, you're sitting eating Maccas, you're supposed to be, even though you literally just started playing in first grade, supposed to be an athlete who is perceived that you're obviously supposed to be healthy and eating well. And then obviously, even though we're not doing anything, you've got your school logo in there and your photograph, just having a bit of a muck around wrestle and things like that. So it just soon got me knowing, obviously, what was obviously perceived acceptable and what wasn't. In terms of in the situation I was in, and as I said, I'm in the public. Was then very quickly go from again being a nobody to in the public eye. So things that may be acceptable for people just again having a muck around with friends and pushing a
Mm.
shove with their friends with all with no intentions is then doesn't become acceptable, because football players. Again, to be honest, probably set some again, really grateful that happened very early because
Yeah.
from then on as a young kid, like very, very mindful in terms of the settings and situations I was in from then on.
Well, I guess you mentioned before you're already kind of a leader at your local club and in reserves, and that just would have emphasized that position so much more. Every single kid you ever played rugby league against would be saying things like, I played with Chris Lawrence, I played against Chris Lawrence, Chris Lawrence is a great guy, I want to make the NRL. And I guess you're just a representation of them.
Yeah, like I mean, again, every kid coming through, you play, through your club footy and you start play through your junior reps, and majority of kids have that aspiration to play, professional rugby league, and as you start making your way through the grades, the window gets smaller and smaller, and there's all those little things that contribute to getting you there. So, there was plenty of kids that I played with who were more talented than me, definitely, and played alongside. So, you sort of when you get that opportunity you do almost have that sense of responsibility that you sort of know that there's plenty of kids, number one, that were better than you and they didn't make it for whatever reason, or other kids that, probably would give anything to play there. So,
Mm.
not to waste this opportunity.
So you played your first game, you finished high school, you got signed as a West Tigers player. What was the next, I guess, what was the next 5 to 10 years like leading up to you being picked for Australia? And how's that transition from high school? Okay, because I'm now a professional footballer. This is my full-time job. I'm only doing this for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so it was obviously like the first couple of years and pre-seasons were tough, and even just like any younger athlete coming through, you have your body getting used to that full-time training. It was it's all about sort of building your body up to be able to handle the demands of week-to-week footy, which does probably take about 5 pre-seasons before your body can obviously develop and then recover and whatnot. So
So
each
how much did you weigh when you were 17, and what did you weigh when you're at your absolute peak?
Um, I think I was about 86, 88 kilos maybe when I debuted, and then I probably played when I suppose got to playing for Australia between about 98 and 100
Yeah.
kilos playing in the centres, and then later in my career in the back row between about 100 and 102. So obviously needed to carry a bit more to take all the impact of that.
Yeah,
So
and that's just 5 years of preseason, 5 years of hard work,
yeah.
ultimately becoming a man, filling in your frame, and just lifting a lot of weights.
Yeah, just bulking up, and that's the thing. There's a lot of I suppose different thoughts into how big you get too quickly. They wanted to obviously bulk me up, because I was pretty skinny, but speed was one of my biggest assets, and I was always
Mm,
mindful not to put on too much weight too quickly and lose my speed. So I was a bit of a as a young kid, to and fro because I've come from an athletics background, and the strength and conditioning staff were looking at how we need to put size on you because that's going to protect you from injury. And then I'm looking at what that's obviously going to do for the speed. So it's always about and understanding your body. Again, I'm young. I don't know my body as well as you do
mm,
when you're older. You really understand what works for your body the best, how to get the most out of it. The different triggers your body. I didn't know that at the moment. There's I suppose a saying especially when you're young and you're an athlete, you don't know how far your body can be pushed, and it's your trainer's job to push you to the
mm.
point of breaking essentially, and then when they break you, they know your level and you can get the treatment and that, and then because you don't know how far you can go, and that's the thing. Plenty of athletes now say, "Oh, I can't do this that," but they haven't been pushed enough to know where your body can go. Once you've done 5, 6, 10 pre-seasons and seasons, you know where your body's at. Mentally, you know how far you can go, and that's why you see the in games and the consistency and hanging in there. Like older guys can push further because they know you got
Don't
more
know.
in you, but
Yeah.
I haven't been pushed as far. So for me, that was the learning curve. You have to sort of get out of the comfort zone, past areas you've been before to test yourself physically and mentally, and that's what those first sort of 5 seasons were all about. Obviously, cementing a spot.
So,
Came
mate,
in.
just to back up again, like you said, the preseasons were grueling. Like I love the details. I love being in the weeds. What does a typical preseason look like? Like how many weeks before kickoff? Like is it just running and weights, and then you lead up to ball work, or like what does the typical call it a periodized program look like for an NRL player in preseason?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably changed a lot. A lot of sports sciences brought in and been really specific around of training loads and kilometers run and things like that. But yeah, most pre-seasons are still pretty standard for a rugby league team. You've pretty much what's nearly November. So next week, I would say every single side who hasn't played finals will be coming back into training. The older guys do now get a bit longer, which is great. I think that they definitely need that. And the first sort of month is just about volume. You've got to, get the volume of the running, the Ks in your legs.
Mm,
It's about building that cardio fitness base. A lot of depending on who you are in your individual capacities. The weights room's either about losing weight, building muscle, or just maintaining. So you usually got your 3 different groups, and then a lot of your technical skills. So the specific individual skills you got to work on. A lot of wrestling tackle technique to obviously get you, technically right for the season. And then you obviously just got the mix up of different I suppose cross training style sessions, army boot camps, and things like that. More to test you mentally rather than to actually get you physically better as a player. So and
mm,
as the sort of pre-season gets more towards the start of the season, past Christmas, a lot of the running volume does decrease. It becomes more game specific, more skills are implemented into that, shorter, sharper, interval based, up and down off the ground, as game specific as possible. Because again, you can train as much as you want, you can earn as many game simulations, but that first trial, that first game, your lungs are still burning. So
mm.
as a young guy, you haven't got that base. 5, 6 years in, you only take probably, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks. You could go keep yourself in fairly decent shape across the preseason and with not doing a lot. And within 4 weeks, you could be match fit. It doesn't, your body, the muscle memory comes back quicker. Takes a lot longer when you're younger. And obviously, you're there to make gains. So,
Yeah,
younger
of
guys
course.
back in, they've got a lot of extra work to do as well.
So, mate, playing for Australia, I promise we'll get onto one training first, but a lot of my audience want to hear from you. So, like, how many years were you into your career before you played for Australia? Was that something you dreamed of as a kid? Was that a phone call you received? What actually happens when you get selected for Australia?
So 2010, I got picked in the Four Nations squad, which was, under I said, it is a dream to represent your country. You don't, you dream to play, for those kids aspiring to play professional sport, you dream just to do that, play one, say, NRL game, then once you play one game, you just love to play 1 year. And as you start playing, your aspirations get higher and higher. So you obviously had that dream of playing for your country, which I was fortunate enough to do. It was actually funny most of the time, and it did happen the following year when I got picked again in the Four Nations squad, that you're supposed to get a phone call just to let you know, hey, we've just congratulations. You've been selected in the squad, either from the coach, selectors, or whatnot. But they announced the squad at the time on the news, and I didn't know that. So they were going through all the names of the squad, and by club name, so West Tigers, they announced last, and I was the last one named. And
And
then
mate, back up. Where were you in that moment? Where were you
sitting
exactly in
home
time?
watching the TV, yeah, sitting home watching the TV. So it was pretty exciting to be picked. Again, because it was a squad, I was excited. I was excited, but again, there's no guarantee I was ever going to play a game.
Mm.
So there was a bit of a understanding. Okay, well, this is a chance to make the most of, being in an 8 week camp with the best players in the game to learn as much as I could. And then
And
when
once again, it's another one. I didn't come this far to come this far. It was, I don't want to make the squad. I want to play for Australia and run out on the field.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I was not the first choice centers at the time, and I was probably third or fourth, probably fourth sort of in line at that time. And I think it was Greg Inglis got injured that year, so they picked three centers. So I got that chance at that number three spot, and once we got in there, I sort of knew that, and the talk was that if the side wins the first couple of games, the third game they're going to give to different people a go. And because I was number three, I thought, I need to, if I get my chance, that's my chance to try to see if I could obviously stay there. So, fortunate enough, the game I got to play in was actually against New Zealand at Eden Park, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
So it was,
And that's
yeah,
obviously a very pro Kiwi crowd.
yeah, it was yeah, surreal having Harker and having 40,000, 50,000, people sitting there, watching and yeah, booing you, and yeah, it was a great atmosphere, and we were again fortunate enough to get the win. But yeah, it didn't unfortunately didn't cement my spot. I felt like I was close, and then coaches, it was a bit of a toss of the coin, so I didn't get to play in the final the next week, but definitely gave me that hunger to get back there once you get that taste of it.
Man, and I think I did some research. You were the West Tiger with the leading scorer. Is that right? It was broken last year, my friend Jared said. Is that true? I
Yeah,
think
so for a little bit was, and then I think for the try scorer, and then Dave Nofaluma, I think spoke
bloody Dave.
wingers. That's all right, wingers. You give it to a winger, that's all right. But I think the back row days cost me a few tries towards the back end of the year.
Yeah, cool. Well, mate, you played for West Tigers. You played for Australia. There comes that point in your career where there is life after football, and you hear it all the time that pro athletes struggle with that. At what point throughout your NRL career did you start planning for post NRL life? And ultimately, what led you to one training where you are now?
To be honest, straight after that first game, and that was again, I look back in hindsight, and very thankful my parents again kept me grounded because by me then focusing on my HSC, I ended up playing the next 5 games of that 2006 season, and I actually found having the school and the HSC to focus on a really great distraction. I didn't like the attention. I hated the media attention, and this was before social media was really prevalent. So
Mm.
I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't like it. The extra so for me, I could just literally go to train, focus training, take my hat off, and focus on school and completely escape from it. So I thought, what, I got into university. I decided there was two areas, business or sort of that health science, sports science that I enjoyed. Decided to take a sports science degree and had a really bad experience that first year. Went to Sydney University and they were definitely not accommodating, definitely not flexible. Things have probably changed, but yeah, for me, I had a bad experience and ultimately dropped out
So,
um,
what was the experience, mate? Why was it bad?
because just no flexibility, just no flexibility. I had there was only certain times you could do tutorials, you can do different the workshops, the lessons and whatnot, and
Yeah,
um,
it's amazing, mate, that 18 years ago, online education wasn't really a thing. You had to sit in the classroom
yeah,
with the
yeah,
lecturer.
yeah. And I think too, again, that's with online learning, things have changed and the flexibility. But that was just, I suppose, the way, Sydney Uni was seen as quite a prestigious university, and so yeah, you had to fit in with them, which you can completely understand. And for me, it was like, well, I'm playing professional rugby league, trying to obviously, fit both in, and it basically got put to me, well, I got to choose what's most important, and frustrated at the time. I think I may have said to the careers coordinator, well, unless you're going to pay me each month, then I think the footy might be the way to go. But for me, that left a negative experience for me because of the fact I really wanted to have something outside of sport, and I wanted to go to that university. I wanted to do that, that course, but I just felt like there was too many barriers. Went away from that. Thought next year I'm going to completely just focus on footy, and got my chance to get a starting spot. But then found my form fluctuating. Didn't know why it was, and just felt like because I'd solely focused on footy, I was just riding the highs and lows, and I have to have something away from footy to take my mind off. So
So just
I
to
actually,
clarify, Chris, like if you had a bad game, you may look at the papers, you may go on social media, the early days, and would get yourself down, or were you just thinking about the moments in the game that you made a mistake? Like, what do you mean? It was just like
oh yeah, everything,
consuming.
yeah, and you do, and every player does. But I think the older you get, you put it in perspective a bit more, and you can move on quicker. Like every player, when they have a bad game, will be dirty on themselves, angry at themselves, and the older you get, and the less you realize as a game, you're always going to make mistakes. You get on with it, you fix what you need to do with the training, and you move on. Obviously, I was still young. I had an element of not wanting to let my teammates down. So I held on to that for a bit longer during the week, again, which is not great because it takes a lot of energy out of you.
Mm.
Across a long season, it isn't great. So I found then education was perfect because if I had that, I could literally focus on education, focus on something and get small wins and actually completely forget about and turn up the train next day and have forgotten about the game really. And that really helped me get over, some of those injuries or it was, some of the the bad performances. So I decided to go in a different direction from sort of face-to-face learning and went on an online fitness course. So I did, the Cert 3 and 4 online. And the reason I did that, again, I had an interest in that. Whether I was going to, when I transition out of sport, did I think I was going to, go and own a gym and be a personal trainer? Possibly. I wasn't 100% sure at that stage, but I knew I liked fitness. And at the end of the day, I felt like if I went into fitness, I knew that I would learn more about my body and I wanted to be a better athlete. So if I knew more about my body, if I knew more about training, I could get the most out of my body and be a better footy player. So I did that all online, really struggled with the lack of support. I went from, two ends of the spectrum and I really struggled and ended up finishing that. And to be honest, that's where I suppose post footy started because my business partner and a friend at school was, he went through a journey like a lot of athletes we spoke about. They, get to the point they play through the system, play, the 20s and reserve go for a number of years and had a couple of injuries and realised he had to look at something else.
Yeah.
He went down the fitness track via TAFE and, we sort of finished similar times and we just thought there's no way that I looked at a lot of the athletes and I was very proactive that could get through, a course like this with no support and vice versa. They couldn't go to TAFE 4 days a week. So we started, the business based off that. We had, dabbled in some other
So just to
businesses.
clarify, mate, you started the business originally. It was like, this is going to be an education company to help people that are pro athletes get qualifications while they're playing to set themselves up for life after footy.
Yeah, that's correct. So we dabbled in a few businesses, health fitness businesses in running holiday clinics and things like that. And it was really around that probably 2011, 2012 where we identified a gap in the market. There was no RTOs, universities, no one accounted for or catered for athletes because they made up such a small percentage of the cohort. They didn't understand their needs, challenges. Again, there was no flexible learning. So there was really there was no positive outcomes for athletes. So we wanted to create education specifically for athletes to help with their transition out of sport. And the course we started delivering for was the Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. And the reason we did that is because it builds confidence back in education. For myself with negative experience from, going from university, my business partner again had similar experiences, and negative experiences with education. Now, we've been over 12 years delivering our fitness course for athletes and, over 1,000 1,400 students through various courses. The 90% of the athletes are the same. Disengage at school at a young age, told they're going to be professional athletes at a young age, and then get to a point where it's 7, 8, 9 years and they haven't engaged in any form of education.
Yeah.
Some have low language literacy and numeracy skills. A lot have low confidence in learning and unsure what they want to do. So how do we address those barriers? And for us, it was a fitness course. This fitness was relatable. They're doing it day
Is
to day.
is there a few beliefs that you have to break, mate, with those younger kids? Like, hey, like I know you're in the NRL, you're making good money, you may play State of Origin one day, but there is going to be a day where you hang up the boots. Perhaps
Oh,
you should look
yeah.
into this.
Oh, yeah, we do that, and everyone, the NRL, all the other major sporting organisation, everyone tries to say that. You have programs and workshops in place for young players to talk about planning, but at the end of the day, it's hard because even myself, I sat in those rooms when you had ex-players say, "Oh, your career goes, so quick, goes like that, and it's over," and you're like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, yeah, it's not going to go that quick, but it
Do,
does. And
do, do you think because you're a player and you now have this company, it's different when it comes from you, a former West Tigers legend, a former Kangaroo, like, hey, like the day is coming.
Well, but as I said, we had past players, and for all clubs, all sports, had past player involvement to try to provide some insight and perspective of what it looks like. But again, if you're a young player, you're 21 years old, you just signed a 5-year contract. Do you really believe, that
Mm,
my career over the next 10 years is going to go quick? Like, you have a level of certainty, and not you don't really have certainty now because things change so much, and it is about just reminding them that what this and our philosophy is, that by engaging with, or this is not about trying to say you have to do, it's not a plan B. I hate the term plan B. It's about, this actually helps with your plan A. Like, you want to be the
mm.
best athlete, you can't ride the roller coaster. You can't be looking at social media every day. As soon as you have one bad day, someone bags you, it is hard to remove yourself from that by having something away from football. And studies have shown, we've done our own study, there's been a major study that those who engage in off-field initiatives have longer careers, play more games, and play more representative footy. So the
And I
stats,
guess your self-worth isn't fully wrapped up in the weekend's game. It is wrapped up in I am an NRL player, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm also studying this course to do this post-footy. So it really would help you ride the roller coaster.
yeah, and I suppose when you're older, that definitely becomes into it because you realise you're not more than just a footy player. When you're younger, it's about being the best player you can be. So the message is a bit different depending on the stage's career you're at. So younger players, it's definitely about, well, you want to play rep footy, you want to do this. Okay, here's the stats show that you need to be having something away from the field to keep you grounded, to make sure you can be focused when you need to be focused and take your mind off, some of these things. So, for
I saw a statistic one day, Chris. It was like the NRL career is a lot shorter than people think. It's like the average career is like 3 or 4 years. Is that accurate?
yeah, I think it's 40 games, 45 games, I think the average. And that's from,
So that's 2 years pretty much, and that's because I guess like there's a new crop of players coming in every year, like a draft where it's best players, best players, best players.
yeah, I mean, that's just the average career because you do have, players are constantly coming in. And again, if you aren't getting better, if you aren't constantly, adapting your game, you're getting left behind. And, when you do become comfortable, that's when it doesn't matter about contracts. You get 3 years on your contract, you're not performing well, you get tapped on the shoulder by the club, or the club will try to look at, moving on to another club or things like that. And that is the
Mm.
way the game goes. So a lot more players are aware of it these days. So it's just about, not necessarily having a plan B, as I said. It's about making sure you've got something else that can help you maximize the performance because it is only a short window of opportunity.
So your role with One Training now, are you one of those ex-players that is going into clubs and speaking to teams and the younger stars about this type of thing?
So our company, so One Wellbeing was the company we started with obviously the athletes, which was fantastic. We went 5 years of delivering the fitness course till 2015. We then thought we want to get some more tangible data, how we can better deliver education for athletes. Did a research project, which was we intended to be 3 months, actually went 2 years, and we partnered with Western Sydney University to have our findings academically published in the International Journal of Sports Society about empowering
Wow.
elite athlete education. And what that did was give us a model of education we knew would work for athletes. Moving forward, now that we know that it doesn't just work for athletes, it works with people who have different unique challenges, whether it's around learning challenges or troubles with busy lifestyle and juggling multiple things. But
So,
from that
mate,
area
just back up for a second. What is the difference, in your opinion, between One Wellbeing, your model of delivering education, to some others out there, and where do you feel like you have the advantage to provide the best possible service?
Yeah, so One Wellbeing, as I said, is our athlete arm. We're sort of getting to where the obviously the one training, I suppose, ended up, and yeah, we've used that model for One Wellbeing. We got to the point where we then delivered education across multiple sectors with athletes. Had the opportunity to become our own RTO, where One Training was born. We always had that intention. We're fortunate enough to partner with an RTO. With One Wellbeing, and we still maintain One Wellbeing is still there as our only business. Now we'll have the opportunity now to work with One Training. There's a couple of cohorts we do work with aside from athletes is those within schools. So school students that do as part of school-based traineeship. And we also work with people who are currently working full-time jobs, wanting to supplement their income, start a fitness business, or just looking to change industries, have had enough of their industry. And we know that our model learning is fit for those who, again, had juggling multiple things. They can't dedicate all their time to it. They need to have flexibility, but they need to have support. Might not have engaged in learning or education for a number of years, so need to build confidence in those skills. So,
Yeah.
for us, if we build confidence in learning skills, confidence in life in general, if you have confidence, what you can achieve, whether that's in education, in business, in your personal life, in your career, is quite amazing. So,
So I
everything
guess you had the bad experience at Sydney Uni where it was not flexible. You had the bad experience online where you didn't have the support. You've taken what you've learnt from there and developed this perfect course for the person that may struggle to learn, for the person that hasn't got time, for the person that wants to transition his career, and just really make it as easy as possible for that person to transition.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, it is about, being flexible in terms of when you can do it, but being supportive in terms of sometimes you just need to sit there and hold someone's hand to get through a certain stage and then gradually have that scaffolded learning approach where you can be hands-on early and you can start to pair that back as, you build independence, you build confidence, and people can start taking that next step. And everyone's different in what they want to achieve, but we've been able to deliver some, great outcomes, for athletes over a number of years. Looking forward to working with school students with our sort of first contract next year. But over the last sort of 2 years, being able to work with in the general public again with those people who are in full-time jobs, looking to change industry, but can't give up their job because of financial pressures. So how can they fit everything in, and they just feel like they're stuck. For us, we can provide that solution for them, and we've had some of the people and students come in who are in finance and working in accounting and have done our course, gone to purchase and start a gym and looking to set up chains of gyms. And those who have gone on to be personal trainers and those who are going in other areas of the fitness industry, but they couldn't take that. They didn't have the confidence to take that leap out of their career, which is the safety net of providing that income. Until they could really see the opportunities, until they could dip their toe in the water, start seeing an opportunity and start seeing
Mm.
a career in the fitness industry, which gave them that confidence to change.
I really want to dive into your student program. It really fascinated me the other day, but I'd love to ask a question. Is there an athlete story that really stands out to you that they went through your program and they've gone on to do amazing things, something that you're really proud of?
Yeah, well, to be honest, a lot of the athletes, in the early days, is that my business partner Leon Kier worked really closely with. Plenty of times that we have had athletes who have just again disengaged with education from such a young age and just didn't feel like they had the confidence to achieve that. Some guys who one particular example was Tarek Sims. Was really was unsure, because he had disengaged in education since school, was focused on sport, had the confidence to go through his Cert 3 and finish his fitness qualifications. And then as he started to do that, he had confidence. He then went on and represented New South Wales and Australia. And we've had a few different instances like that where at different ages too, athletes have gone on to play representative football once they've started to get towards the completion stage of their fitness course. So
Mm.
it happens once. You can say it's coincidence. When it happening on multiple occasions. Wade Graham, another example. Just showed a car. You've got a lot of
Yeah.
these guys.
And you have those studies in place that if they have something outside of footy that they're pursuing, i.e. a Cert 3, Cert 4 in fitness, it actually leads to better performance on the field because they
Yes,
have a
yeah.
more
So
well-rounded
yeah,
life.
Good, really great study by Dr. Professor Lavalley. If any listeners want to actually go check that out, he did a cross study. I think it was about 120 NRL players across a number of years. And yeah, the results essentially were those who engage in off-field endeavours have longer careers, playing more games, and are picked in rep size more often. So,
Mm,
it was a couple of years ago when I think the Turbos, Tommy Trbojevic was the Dally M medalist. He was also academic player of the year as well. So doing a double degree, so
man.
a guy that can fit both those things in just shows that, don't have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, cool, cool. That's amazing, mate. And for me personally, I'm always trying to learn something. Otherwise, I feel like I'm getting dumber. Like
Yeah.
your brain stops working. So, mate, I want to transition to the school program. We spoke last week about it. I was really, really fascinated because, mate, I was that person. I was disengaged with education. I speak really fast. I'm the worst speller on planet Earth. I was told I was stupid my whole life. So, school was tough for me. And I did my Cert 3 after I finished school at Gosford TAFE. Can you run me through how this works in regards to kids that are year 10, 11, and 12 that can do traineeships through one training?
Yeah, so we were very fortunate enough to win a New South Wales Government Smart and Skilled contract in July this year. So that's an education contract to deliver fee-free training. What we got given when we first tendered for it, we didn't go for school-based traineeships, to be honest. We just went for very conservative to try to get a contract. When we got awarded the contract for school-based traineeships and chatting to a lot of department officials, the reason why we got given that was our work over the last 12 years with athletes and our ability to engage with disengaged students. There's been a big push by the government to incentivise students to stay in school in year 11 or 12. More and more kids are leaving school in year 10 and not going into, I suppose, your traditional trade. So they want to incentivise students to stay in year 11 or 12 by doing a school-based traineeship. So like your old school, school-based apprenticeship to do plumbing, electrical, building, but on your other areas, so whether it's hospitality, fitness, or whatever it may be, so that you can complete a Cert 3 fitness funded by the government so they can, again, provide that incentive to stay at school and have finished year 12 with a qualification in Cert 3 that goes towards your HSC. So that's
All
the
right.
first element. The second element is obviously you got the course at school. Second element is work. So part of a traineeship, you have to be employed by a gym or sporting, body to go through the requirements. And one of the challenges the government found, the hardest thing was the schools, the careers advisors, the parents and students just didn't know how to go and find that employment. A lot of gyms didn't know about the opportunities, what they could and couldn't do.
So,
And
mate, I want to jump in there because that's where we kind of got introduced.
yeah,
Can you run me through? So, a year 10, year 11, year 12 student is going through their Cert 3 in fitness. Part of that program is working in a local gym or a sporting organization to get experience. How does that relationship happen? Like, what happens between, is it the student reaches out to the gym reaches out to the student? Because I didn't know this existed.
yeah. Well, prior to, I suppose, us getting it, really, it can be anyone. It could be the student reaching out to the gym, the provider, whatnot. But a lot of providers previously that have had the contract, I don't think, do that because it's an additional service, essentially, being able to reach out to the gym. It's really the responsibility on the student and the parent. But again,
Mm,
some students are proactive in that sense. A lot of students just don't know where to start or what to do. So for us, with our connections with a lot of gym facilities and providers through our work with athletes, and even now working with the General Public, being able to help transition into employment. We've had that opportunity that we can connect out to gyms. So initially, to be honest, one of the first things was a bit of fact finding, understanding, well, a lot of our gym partners speak to them and saying, look, if you were to take on a trainer, what do you see the benefits of? And as we started to chat more about what they can and can't do, it was really clear, there's 5 really clear benefits that, a lot of gyms who have already now started to take on these trainees have. First of all, in the local area, just obviously the ability to give back to a local kid in the school, give back to the community. A lot of gyms are community focused. They're about the community and
mm.
giving back in some form is what one of the motivations were. Number 2, many of your listeners and gym owners would tell you how hard it is to find a Cert 3 qualified instructor.
Man, I'll jump in there. It is like a running joke in our industry at the moment how hard it is to find staff.
Yeah, well, again, most of like the conversation, and you guys will be having the conversations as well. When COVID hit, all your senior instructors, your head coaches, head trainers, Your studio managers obviously stayed in the industry. Anyone who's 1, 2, and 3 year experience, a lot of those people left because of the uncertainty.
Mm.
Gyms were closed for 12, 18 months.
Man, that's a really good point. I never thought about that. I never thought about that people that have just entered the industry, the level of uncertainty has pushed all those people out.
Left. And then you got the gap between your guys who've been there 6, 7 years and those ones who should have been 4 or 5 year experience are gone now. So you got that big gap where now you got nothing and you only got your entry level people in. So, it is hard. And then because of that, your entry level guys, if they decide to leave, the gyms are left obviously with a shortage of really good trainers. So the ability, a lot of gyms see this as a long term solution to having a really good qualified instructor. Getting a student at in year 11 gives the gym the opportunity to train them to their standards, to mold and develop them and mentor them to the standards they want. Obviously, sometimes the challenge when you get a gym from another provider, that they have a certain way of doing things or they've learned from this provider. This is literally like a blank canvas. You can really, and a young,
Yeah, man.
motivated student as well, who hopefully can learn your members, really learn the systems, processes, standards, and can really be that long-term trainer at a young age. So that's obviously number two. Number three, commercial. Again, obviously this is, the gyms are running a business, so there's got to be a commercial benefit.
So this is what blows me away, mate. Like it truly blew me away because if gyms knew that this existed, they'd be all over it. Because number one, I know in my two gyms, our members would absolutely love it. They have that community. They think, let's support Johnny from Katara High School.
Yeah.
Not to mention now the commercial benefit.
Yeah, exactly right. And then that's the thing. I mean, everyone has their different, I suppose, motivations, and it's not saying that one way is better than the other. Everyone's different in what they're trying to achieve and can have more than one. But commercial benefit, obviously, there is a small wage subsidy, not not a large one. $1,750 for student if for a gym that takes on a student paid at 6 and 12 months. But you do have a student that is on a traineeship wage. So the award wage varies between about $10.50 to $14 an hour, more for public holidays and weekends. So from a value point of view, and I speak with a lot of gyms that they have some of their head trainers or their personal trainers who are on $40, $50 an hour, having to do some lower level tasks that they could be running more sessions and earning the gym more money. So having
Yeah, so for example, if trainers are in the gym, mopping the gym, cleaning the floors, cleaning the equipment, the trainee that you provide could go in and do that to get experience, and the actual trainer itself could be doing more revenue generating activities like running sessions, like doing PT.
You could have a PT rather than have to have 15, 30-minute gaps in between sessions to pack up and set up, can have back to back to back because they've got a trainee who during the middle of the session is learning, engaging and putting the weights away and then setting up for the next session. So you can literally have, okay, we can get another 2 sessions per day out and make extra money. You can have group sessions and fill the classroom more because you have your head instructor and your support staff, your trainee, coming in supporting and monitoring. If there's any issues, they can get the group instructor to come and fix technique and things like that, so you have more than one set of eyes on you. So
Now, if I was to employ a trainee from you guys, is there a minimum number of hours per week, or how does that work?
yeah, so minimum number of hours. So as a traineeship, to get qualified for and complete the traineeship, they need to do 100 days of paid employment across their year 11 and 12 years, so across 2 years. So that's equivalent of 1 day's equivalent of 7.6 hours. So essentially 760 hours across 2 years, which is about 8 hours a week. So the
Yeah.
minimum they need to do, and that can be broken up however. So it can be a full day. They can have one full day off, but realistically, knowing the fitness industry is busy in the morning and afternoon, they could just work 2 hours every afternoon or on a weekend or in the morning, whatever suits obviously the student and the gym. It's what works for them, and that's the beauty of it. They can be
Yeah, so the idea would be if we go 24/7 gym, you could have the trainee come in between 5 p.m., 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, be on the desk,
Yep.
and have your membership consultant or your trainer outdoors doing revenue generating activities.
That's correct. Yep.
Mate, what percentage of gyms knows this exists?
Well, there's not a lot, to be honest. Like I've just been on the phones. Again, got onto yourself. Trying to connect with people online. It's more the awareness thing, and a lot of again, gyms are so busy. When they hear a lot of it, it's like, oh, I don't have the time. And 100% to get it is a lot of information to take in. But when you sit and really map it out, what's required, it isn't. And the benefit across the 2 years, yes, there is a bit of an understanding what's required. Just completing some paperwork with the trainees you sign on initially, But once they start with you, they're your employee. You
It's
employ
like
them.
it's like any staff member. You have to onboard them correctly, and
Yeah.
then they'll make your life better.
Exactly right. So if you put the time in to onboard them and train them, they're your employee. And again, they're on traineeship wage. The traineeship wage goes up in year 12 slightly, but they're still a low cost employee. But they're a young motivated trainer. And you've got the ourselves as the training provider, their parents, their school, obviously trying to keep them accountable, making sure they are turning up on time, they're doing everything right, and they are really good employee. For us, we have a screening process before we even introduce a student to a gym to make sure, for us, it's important the students are fully aware about what is required of them. One of the things going back to as well, before we even, have a gym commit, we understand a lot of it in the gym, a student might not be the right fit. We try to match the student in the gym as best as possible, but all we ask of the gym is, would you be willing to get a student who we've identified in for an unpaid work experience to see if they're the right fit? No commitment. Get them in, have a work experience. If you think this student will be a really good fit and can add value, great. Now we can talk about what the process is for onboarding. Because once they
So,
get in,
mate, I want to circle back around. So, for example, before committing to this program, you give them a call. Hey, I've got Johnny from Katara.
yep,
He wants to come down to Breakthrough Active Adamstown for an unpaid work experience trial.
yep.
Would you be open to that?
Exactly. Would you be open to that? And no commitment. I introduced the gym to the school and the student because obviously, I say, look, I'll leave you with you guys. You arrange the time and logistics. You go out there, do your trainees, do your work experience. Then I'll touch base. Look, how'd you find Johnny? What did you think? And if you go, look, I think, he might be a bit shy, but I think, he's really keen and, he can really add value. Okay, great. Here are the next steps and we can go from there.
Okay. And those next steps, I like Johnny. I say, Chris, I want Johnny to work for us. What is the turnaround time?
So turnaround time, again, it can be, as quick as possible. You can employ, so the gym can employ the student as quick as possible. From a traineeship point of view, we go back to the school, we give them the training plan, go, this is how the course is going to be delivered. Then there's an apprenticeship network provider who does the traineeship contract. So they've got the government contract to say you're on a traineeship. So they get us to sign, the school, the student, the gym. So they go around and get every party to sign the contract. Once that contract's signed, they're now on a traineeship and the student can start working. If they want to start working before the start of, say, the end of this year, those hours can go towards their traineeship. Or if the gym says, look, I don't want to onboard them, have them start working till January next year, that's fine. They just have to start working by the middle of February is the ideal time as the latest to start working next year.
And just to be clear, so this student is getting a Cert 3 effectively government funded.
Yep.
And for that requirement, he must get the work experience hours and he must be like getting a certain level of grade in school, or what happens on the school side?
So the school side, that's, the student goes and completes their additional units as per how they do. The Cert 3, it counts to 2 units in one of the years and 3 units. So it counts to HSC units. So they have to complete their coursework, be competent in that coursework. Anytime it's not competent, it's just resubmitted. We provide extra support. They have opportunities to resubmit their work. From a work point of view, again, from the paid employment, there is no assessment. However, they will have a journal of activities that they will need to tick off to say, across the 2 years, I'm ticking off to say that I've sat on the reception desk and reached out to a member, or that I've viewed and completed a screening assessment, all the requirements of the course. We also have a trainer assessor come out on site every so often, just again, check in with the supervisor, check in with the student, make sure, again, they're ticking through all those things, and then just a journal to sign off the times and days to make sure they're hours. So essentially, it's like that.
So the dream outcome for a gym would be really busy gym in the afternoon between 5 and 7. You want your trainer doing revenue generating activities, and you want a helper, but you don't want to pay a receptionist $50 an hour. You could get Johnny from Katara to come in on this trainee-based program, and he can clean the gyms, hire members, sign people up, process payments, do all the things that have to get done, but you're probably not doing.
Yeah, exactly right. And to add to that, our first term, when we deliver the actual course component, and we've strategically done this, is that the units they will complete in their first term are all around work health and safety. So again, they can safely clean up and do a lot of that sort of side of things at the gym. Customer service and business development. The reason we do that is if for some reason if a student turns around and decides, look, fitness industry is not for me, then they can obviously have learnt really tangible skills that they can
Mm.
transfer across industry. But for the gym, they're learning things that you can put them to use straight away. The start of the year is obviously a great chance for commercial generating activities, having them learn about customer service, how to learn about how to approach members, how to introduce people as they walk in, how to on-sell things, and things like can add value to the gym again, and allow and free up some of your probably higher paid trainers to do what they do best, and bring in whether it's group sessions or personal training
Yeah,
sessions.
so it's a win, 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 regardless of the outcome. You're either helping a student that becomes hopefully a long-term employee,
Yeah,
or you're helping a student and giving him the skills, maybe the mentorship that you didn't have when you were a child, i.e. myself.
yeah.
Right? That's really, really cool, mate.
Yeah, definitely. So look, very excited. There's obviously we've now had over 60 gyms across New South Wales, come on board, which is fantastic. We still have a number of students that we still haven't been able to place yet. We do have around the Lake Macquarie area and Maitland area have a lot of students down in Shore Harbour as well, that are still sort of looking for gyms. So again, any
So
listeners are in those
if
areas.
a gym is listening and they want to get staff, look at a traineeship, how do they contact you, and what's the first step?
First step, I can provide you a link and with a direct contact for me, or just go to onetraining.com.au/SPAT. So, or if you just go to the main page in the tab, you'll see SPAT. There's an inquiry form down the bottom that'll get sent to me. I'll get in contact with you and be able to chat through all the details. Conversely, if you are interested and just want to know some more information, I'm going to run an information session about all the specific details around that, about specific award wages, when you can onboard, and things like that. This Friday at 11 o'clock, I think. So I can send a Calendly link out for any listeners who want to book in and learn about that. And it can have some more one-on-one time and in a time that we can obviously chat about that. So, and anyone who then does book in that, I'll be able to email through all of our, I suppose, marketing collateral, which has all the information they'll need to go and access and learn about the traineeships.
So, mate, from West Tigers legend to Kangaroo to helping athletes take that next step post sporting career to helping kids get jobs with gyms, mate. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's really exciting, and looking forward to being able to obviously give back and see the next generation of trainer come through. Being fortunate enough to obviously learn a lot of things through my playing career. Work with different cohorts, work with athletes, schools, and sort of and I think I mentioned to you in a previous conversation. Really excited now. Not only about obviously the school students, but we're just about to launch a new delivery model. For us, with the reason why we've been so successful with athletes and now with school students, it's been able to learn, get feedback, and really tailor education specifically for a group. That's our strength in what we do at One Training. As I spoke about, some of the people we've been able to help who are working full time in an industry, who are looking to change industries, looking to supplement their income, and looking to start a fitness business. We've started to get more feedback, really get some successful outcomes now, and have changed our delivery model to that group to suit that need. So, really excited to be able to learn our Flexi Learn fitness course model in the coming weeks. We're going to have a limited cohort, but going to open up a special offer to all your listeners there, which I can provide the details. Open up to 15 spots. I can provide a link, and everything like that. So you can have a look at some of the amazing discounts, but essentially it's just going to give them that access to the community of the mentoring community to, again, help those participants at the gyms. They might have, Cert 3 qualified instructors who were thinking about doing the Cert 4, members who, often members become your best trainers, your best advocates who have been thinking about it. This is the ideal time to start. If they're thinking the end of the year, wasn't sure whether to start, I've got another job, but I love
Mm.
fitness. This is their opportunity to do it, dip their toe in the water. They could be your next star employee.
Mate, I finished the podcast with two questions. This is one for you. What are you most proud of in your career to date?
Rugby league career?
Yeah.
Rugby league career. I think I couldn't put on probably three things that stand out. Debut, making debut, getting to try and win. You always remember your debut game. Really special. First test match, very, very special. Definitely to pull on that green and gold jersey. And probably third thing would have been to win a Four Nations final in 2011. So I played in the final in 2011, played all the test matches in the Four Nations tour, played in the final, and played in Darren Lockyer's last ever game when we beat England. So,
And
to do that was pretty special.
mate, what's one question I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh, one question you should have asked me is there one thing or any, is there a number of things that helped you get to where you wanted to be in your fitness career or your rugby league career, sorry?
And what's the answer, mate?
I think the answer is that it's just about constantly getting better. It's about the compounding effect of getting better every day. I based my entire career, I was talented, but I was never the most talented. So talent's important, but you have to get better every day. The more you get better, you look back after a year's time, those who aren't constantly pushing and getting better, the gap gets bigger. And if you get comfortable, you don't become adaptable, you look ahead and people are jumping in front of you. So whether it's in sport, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, you're constantly learning and just consistently. If you're doing it consistently and just not trying to focus on getting there quick, but doing it consistently day in, day out, if you go 12 months and actually reflect how far you come, you'll be really surprised. If you go 5 years and look back, you'll be quite shocked at what you can achieve. So,
And if you go 10 years, mate, you'll change your life forever. It's just literally getting better every single day, doing the boring work, which ultimately ends up being a West Tigers legend, former Kangaroo, founder of One Wellbeing and founder of One Training. Guys, if you want to contact Chris about getting some traineeships into your gym, there's going to be links everywhere over this podcast, and we'll go from there, mate. Thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it.
thanks, Jamie. Cheers, mate.
Cool. Don't jump off yet, mate. Just one sec.